Welcome to Rooted Agritourism. I'm Dr. Liz Fiddler-Mergen, owner of Sunny Mary Meadow, a U-Pick flower farm, wedding florist, and event venue in central Minnesota. Our mission is to serve anyone rooted in agritourism, value-added agriculture, and rural entrepreneurship. The people turning ideas and raw products into thriving businesses and experiences. Let's dig in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rooted Agritourism. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Fiddler-Mergen, and today I have got Heidi Montag, not the one from the hills. I'm a millennial. I grew up on Heidi Montag and Elsie and all the drama, but you probably were barely even born then.
Yeah, actually. So the day after I was born, my great uncle brought my parents a newspaper that had Heidi Montag. I think it was like a magazine, actually.
Heidi and Spencer.
Yeah. It was about Heidi Montag, and they're like, "Why'd you name your daughter this?" And my mom and dad were like, "We didn't know.
Our last name is Montag,
so,
and we like the name Heidi. I didn't know."
So
Anyway.
they found out the day after I was born and named. But yeah, it's something I've heard my whole life, and it was definitely amplified at the state fair as well.
Yeah. So Heidi lives locally. So as a reminder, I'm outside of St. Cloud, Minnesota. My farm is St. Joe. And we were kind of, as we were brainstorming for guests that we wanted here, Heidi was a finalist for the Princess K. Do we call it a competition, pageant, program?
Yeah, program.
Yep. Which is essentially kind of a dairy ambassador.
Yes.
The dairy, Princess K is the statewide dairy princess of the state. And it's definitely a pageant that is, pageant is a weird word, but it's what it is. It's a program where people are finalists. You have to be for your county, right?
Yes.
And then you run to help promote and educate people on dairy.
So you start as a county princess or ambassador. Ambassador programs typically start at around 15. And by the age of 17, you can run to be Princess K of the Milky Way. You have to be graduated from high school. There's a few other requirements of how you're connected to dairy in the industry. And then also just like some personal things. So we have like a speech, mock media interview, a personal interview, some long answer questions we fill out. And from there, just seeing how we interact with the judges and each other, choose the top 10 finalists.
Got it. So you have to win yours, and then you have to be a finalist, and then there's a lot of that competition finally happens at the state fair.
Yes. The week before the state fair, the Princess K competition happens. It's a little bit less than the May event competition where they choose the finalists. In May, all the princesses from across the state come together, and then we all kind of compete for it, and it's like multiple days of judging, and it's like lots of like you're going. The Princess K interview time when it was just the finalists was a lot simpler. All 10 of us just sat in a room together, and we one by one took turns. I think in total we maybe spent an hour with the judges each.
Well, and I'm going to make a little pun. You guys are the cream of the...
Yes.
cream, dairy. So you guys were the finalists. This is so cool. I just want to learn a little bit more, like the behind the scenes of it. You were a finalist, so you did not win, but that's
all right.
That's okay. It's a very prestigious just to be a finalist. I went to college with a few butterheads. I was in Sigma Alpha in college, which is an agriculture-based sorority at South Dakota State. I'm thinking of my friend Brittany. She was a butterhead, and I think when she applied, or her fun fact was like, I have a carving of my head out of butter in a freezer at my parents' house. My late husband, his cousin, Kathy, was a butterhead, and her daughter, Megan, was a butterhead a few years ago. Okay. She's from Cold Spring. What made you even want to do this? What made you want to run for Princess K? What made you want to be a dairy princess in the first place and then run?
Yeah, so my parents are dairy farmers in Sauk Rapids. And so I guess I've grown up in the dairy community my entire life. And when I was a little girl, I remember watching the Butterheads on TV, on the news, and just seeing butter princesses, and they're being called dairy princesses. I was like, I don't know what a dairy princess is, but I want to be one.
I want to be one.
So when I was 14, 15 years old, a former board member for the Benton County American Dairy Association reached out to me. She said, I've heard that Heidi would be the perfect person for this role. She's outgoing, she's this, and this, and she grew up on a dairy farm. So they asked me to be part of the program, and I've been a Benton County Dairy Royalty member for the last 5 years now.
Nice. My sister-in-law, Shannon, was a Stearns County dairy princess. I don't know if she ever ran for Princess K or not, but I know she wasn't a butterhead. But how many Benton County dairy princesses are there?
Currently there are 6, which is really high. Typically Benton County doesn't see that many. I'm an outgoing person, so I go and collect a lot of the young ladies to come join us as dairy princesses. Same thing with FFA in high school. grew our chapter by 5 times the amount that it was when I joined.
Oh,
so.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm a recruiter.
Yeah, that's good. Tell me a little bit more about your parents' dairy operation. Where does their milk go? And it's direct commodity pricing, right? They have a contract for their milk, correct?
Yes. So Gilman Creamery ships it to First District Association in Litchfield. It's mainly used for cheese. So if you think like the Doritos nacho cheese, that kind of stuff too. It's all, there's cheese in everything, dairy and so many things.
And then tell me a little bit more about like what the size of your dairy operation is. Do you work day to day within the farm at all? Do you milk? What do you do?
So we milk enough cows. I milk cows in the mornings with my moms whenever I'm home. So I was in college for a little bit. I wasn't milking as much then, but definitely in high school and over the summers and on the weekends, milking with mom has been a big thing. Now I'm working full time, so it's a little bit less often.
So you're not within the operation from that standpoint?
No, not milking cows. I still help my brothers feed calves whenever I'm home and the opportunity is there to help them with whatever else too. I mean, farming's not just a set this and this. There's so many other things in between. There's just the random day-to-day things that are different every day.
So I love to hear this because I think that I see myself in you. Like I'm 15 years older than you probably, but I feel like you wanting to be part of the Dairy Princess, be part of the Princess K, what you share on TikTok, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but trying to find your place in agriculture and the industry that you love.
Yes.
So, I mean, I ended up going to college for nursing because I couldn't find my fit that I wanted because I didn't realize how big of a world agriculture could be. And then eventually I found flower farming and now this podcast and agritourism and finding it. But what does it mean to you to share and educate people about the dairy industry while knowing that, I mean, in a perfect world, if you could go start your own farm, you probably would, but that's not a resource that everyone is able to go do yet at this point of your life, and maybe not the desire.
Yeah. So I think it's really awesome to be able to educate people on not only just the dairy community, but all agriculture. I think it's super, super important that people know where their food comes from and they know that we are all trying hard. We all work hard. A lot of times there's so many negative connotations around what agriculture is. But I think that it's really important for all these people to just see that we are people living the same life. This is not only our job, but also a huge part of our life and everything. And I mean, there's so much misunderstanding when it comes to agriculture. At the state fair, actually, one young girl, she appeared to be about 16 to 20 years old. She came up to me and she asked me, "Have you ever been to the mall?" Because she realized that I lived on a dairy farm, being a dairy princess, and she like could not wrap her head around that I've been to the mall. I was like, yeah, I only live about 10-15 minutes away from St. Cloud, which is a rather big metropolitan area in Minnesota. And she just was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Like, it was like the most mind-boggling thing to her. So everyone has a different level of what they should learn about agriculture. And I mean, for her, that was a huge step.
And I think just that show and tell piece that you've been able to bring to people and the awareness. So the agritourism movement within the state right now, or just nationwide and within the industry, you know, we were talking about this briefly and I said, well, do you guys do any farm tours or anything like that? And this is the perfect example of, sometimes we let school field trips come out, but it's not always a safe environment to do so.
Yeah, because even if everything you bring the kindergartners or whoever to see, even if it's all completely safe to us, the kindergartners might not know the same things. Like me growing up on a farm, I knew not to go close to the cows. I knew not to do these certain things. But these people who haven't been exposed to it in the same way, they might not know what is safe and unsafe, as well as it's just a big liability. And if they trip and fall, it's a huge liability issue.
And I think that that's so great, like living in the state of Minnesota, the agritourism acts that have been in place by, I'm not sure if it was House or Senate who proposed them, but, you know, where it definitely keeps that liability away as long as it's, you know, in pursuit of an agritourism activity. And so I think that that's really showing that we're trying to show and tell, to show the behind the scenes. It's, I think for so long, that disconnect of people believing that, you know, maybe farmers are hiding something. Maybe farmers are, well, why can't we just come to the farm? Well, you can't. It's not always safe. It's not always, you know, so how do we try to promote and show and do? So let's get back to the Princess K program. So because you were a finalist, you got to have your head carved out of butter. Tell me about that. How did that, is it one person that does it?
Yes. So one sculptor named Jerry Kozer, he does all the sculptures. Actually, there was another lady who did the sculptures for 50 or 60 years, and she just retired around COVID, and Jerry took her place. And actually, he was one of my teachers when I was in high school. He was my 10th grade photography teacher. He taught at Sauk Rapids Rice for 1 year. So it was really awesome talking to him, and a lot of people had questions like, is it boring in there? Is it cold in there? The cooler is a good food safe 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
So it is cold.
And yeah, but they have us really
Yeah.
bundle up because we wear our dresses so that we can leave for the parade. And so we're wearing snow pants and a coat over top so that we don't have to change into jeans and everything. But the time really flies. I could have spent
How long
another
did it
week
take?
in there. Between 6 and 8 hours. So I was in there at between 8 and 9 in the morning, and I was out of there by 5.
And everyone got to watch it.
Yeah, so it's in the rotating butter cooler. It's all glass on the sides. If you've never seen it, definitely look it up or go to the state fair to look
Yep.
at it because it's so cool. And a lot of times, Jerry actually pointed out how he's never seen a finalist interact with the crowd as much as me. Usually they're just facing him, talking to him because he is such an awesome guy to conversate with and
Yeah.
visit with. So I was actually like out waving to everyone like the whole
Yeah.
time I'm holding a conversation with him.
Yeah.
I probably looked crazy.
Yeah.
But I think just the joy on so many different people's faces, like, oh my gosh, the princess is waving to me. I'd see
Yeah.
a phone, I'd wave to that phone and look directly at it. And once the people around that person saw it, all their phones went up.
Yeah.
So
And then-
it's really good.
Well, it's not every day do you see someone getting their head carved out of butter.
No.
I know that my late husband's cousin, when she was a butterhead, they tell the story about how afterwards, because you get to keep it, right?
Yes.
And then you get to do whatever you want with it, obviously. And so I think that they put it in the freezer, and then they had a sweet corn feast and then they just, like my friend Tammy talks about taking the sweet corn, and she's like, I was just rolling it on Kathy's nose like sweet corn feed. That's what they did with it. My friend from college talked about how it was still in her freezer a few years later. And so you have decided to use it as a way to promote awareness of the program, just the dairy industry in general. And so you are doing a segment on TikTok and baking with it.
Yes. So it's baking with my butterhead or baking with my butter twin. I kind of say them interchangeably there.
Yeah.
But it's just awesome, like, because it's so unique. I mean, I like baking videos. I like butter. So I figured, why not?
Do you guys know the origin of where this butter came from?
Yeah, so the butter is from Dinner Bell Creamery, which is AMPI in southern Minnesota. And they donated between 90 and 100 pound blocks. Actually, one of the other finalists was doing an internship there, so she actually got to make all the blocks for all of us.
Oh, that's so cool. My
that was
brother-in-law
very
works
cool.
at AMPI in
Okay.
Painesville. He's been there a long time, actually, and then my husband. So when I talk, so I'm a remarried widow, and what's really funny is my late husband, he grew up on a dairy farm,
Okay.
and then so did my current husband. So
Okay.
I married two
You got it
Stearns
tight.
County dairy farmers and whatever. Anyway, and I got a type. Yep, my therapist tells me that too. Weird. Anyway, but so is it salted?
Yes, it has to be salted,
Oh, yeah.
actually.
Okay, tell me about that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
1 year they accidentally ordered unsalted butter, and he couldn't sculpt it the same way. So they had to send it all back and get a whole new set of butter.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's the
Yeah.
state fair and
Yeah,
it's not
the-
working. And okay, so it has to be salted.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so it comes from AMPI and that, yeah, I'm wrapping my head around all of this butter. What have the other finalists done with their butterheads?
A lot of them are keeping it in the freezer, so a lot of the other finalists have lots of family members, like their moms, their aunts, their sisters, their cousins, who are also all butterheads. So they have like a whole collection of heads in their freezer. Sounds a little off if we don't know we were talking about butter here. But one of the other finalists, originally I was going to do the same thing. She's going to use it at her wedding. She just got engaged this week.
Yep.
So I was actually planning on doing the same thing
Yeah.
until I heard some horror stories of like toothpicks going where they shouldn't. Other
Yeah.
people just like kind of doing weird things to the head. So
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I kind of don't trust it. Even just my brothers.
Yeah.
Then before we even think long distance family, whatever.
Yeah.
So then I was like, nope, I don't want to keep it in the freezer. I want to actually use it.
Yeah.
And for years and years of my life, I've always wanted to be some kind of commentator on whatever online.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, why not start with baking with my butterhead to educate people
Mm-hmm.
on agriculture and the dairy community.
Yeah. So how else are you involved in agriculture in general,
Yeah.
promoting the dairy industry?
So actually, after I give up my crown in April, I will be joining the Benton County American Dairy Association Board. I'm a member of the Benton and Mille Lacs County Farm Bureau Board, and I'm also a member of my county's BPOU board. So I'm involved in lots of different things. It's kind of awkward to be 20 years old and on 3 boards, but it's all right. I get to talk to some very, very wise people often, so it's really awesome.
What made you want to get so involved? I mean, I would assume you were that girl that was like, I was president of my 4-H club for 7 years, and I was the FFA president. Or were you always kind of involved, or were you just kind of a member, or how did you?
Actually, no. So I grew up, my parents were not involved in any activities whatsoever. A lot of my family members, so actually, for me to even graduate high school is a huge achievement in my family. So it's not very common in my family to have that strong drive to go for something like that. But when I was in 10th grade, my dad bet me $1,000 I could not get on the honor roll. And I took that bet and I won. I got that $1,000.
Yeah.
First person in my family to ever be on any honor roll whatsoever. So I think just that really pushed me like, oh, I am capable of something, even if a lot of my other family members, distantly cousins, whatever, haven't really done anything like to that level. But I joined FFA. I was kind of in it as a freshman.
Yep.
Didn't even bother as a sophomore. But my junior year, I went fully in FFA.
Did you do like dairy judging?
Yeah,
or did you do foods, or what did you do?
Yes, both of them. I actually did 5 CDEs, an LDE. I was an officer.
Yes,
I went to every opportunity. I was actually maybe my senior year in school 3 days a week average, because every single day I had something for FFA. So I became fully involved in FFA, fully involved as a princess. I think I've missed maybe 3 events in the last 5 years as a Benton County Dairy Princess. And if you know anything about Dairy Princesses, June is stocked full. It's like every day there's something.
It's Dairy Month.
Yes. So I became super involved in both of those things my junior and senior years of high school. And then outside of high school, I was asked right away, like before I graduated, if I would be interested in going to the Capitol for Farm Bureau, because I'm super interested in politics. I'm on my BPOU board. And I wanted to be a political commentator, actually, my whole life. That was like my big dream from the moment I turned into a junior in high school. I wanted to be a political commentator. I wanted to have some kind of talking about whatever I'm passionate about. So I figured agriculture was a good way to start. It's something that I am very, very connected to, and I can talk about it easily with other people. And I think that's a great way to start with all of that. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, and I think it's okay that your parents weren't involved in things as you were growing up. My late husband and I talked about it all the time, because we had very, very drastically different experiences growing up on a farm. And my family and my parents, we were very, very heavily involved in 4-H. My parents were the Leaders Council president, or, I was like, that's just what we were, and that's what they grew up as. And my mom was a South Dakota pork queen. Her sister was a sheep queen. Suffolk queen, maybe it was breed specific. My dad was on the livestock judging team in college at South Dakota State. And my parents were always like the beef superintendent at the county fair and coaching the livestock judging team. And we were just, it was 4-H FFA. That was just part of what we did. Whereas my late husband, he's like, oh no, we didn't do activities. We didn't do sports. We had to milk, and nope, we weren't in FFA. Nope, we weren't in 4-H. We didn't, do any of that. And my current husband now also, growing up on a dairy farm, he actually bought out his parents' cattle in his like mid to late 20s and was renting the facility from them. And he did that for 6 years. He owned the cattle and was planning to buy the farm. And then they ultimately decided that, just trying to come up with an agreement like a lot of farms. And so they decided it was best for everyone. He just sold the cattle, and now it's done. His parents still grain farm, but it's not as simple as what people make it seem like. And they were athletic. My current husband, they were good at sports. So, his brother played college baseball. He was hoping to maybe get a wrestling scholarship, my husband was, and he didn't. But it ends up, just what you're passionate about. But they weren't in 4-H. They weren't in FFA. They weren't. And I think now, especially with social media, in a lot of ways, it can get, from the outside looking in, like, oh, a person's an influencer or this or that. But it's using that platform to connect people and understand that, hey, this is actually really cool, and food safety and security, and we need people who want to study those things or talk about those things. And I think now more than ever, there's so much mistrust about what is in our food, what isn't. Was there a lot of that at the state fair where you asked like antibiotics in milk or cruelty or like any like distress there?
So
Because
I
would
was
think
prepared,
that, you know,
yeah.
you're there, you're prepared. And was it not as controversial as you
No,
thought?
it was not as much. I was
That's
prepared
good.
because I thought I was going to get all these questions about food safety and nutrients and animal welfare and all these other things, environmental impacts.
And you're ready to answer.
And
And
I
you're
was
ready
ready
and
to
prepared.
answer, to
Yeah.
be like, you know what? Dairy is a real natural food. It's got
Yep.
all these 13 essential nutrients, and you know, dairy farming, we're trying to get to net zero by 2050, and like all these different facts and everything, and my personal dairy farm story experiences. So it's like I had all this stuff ready to go, and I didn't get like anything. A lot of people were just curious about the butter and the princesses and the fun stuff. So
Yeah.
that was really awesome.
Yeah, that is good to hear. And because those conversations, maybe it's not as complicated and as controversial and as disconnected as we maybe think it is.
Yeah.
So, okay, you talked about, is it your brother's girlfand has a farm stand at the end of the driveway out of an
Yes.
old granary?
Yeah, so she actually got her little cobbler's license, and she set up a grain bin at the end of our driveway. It's got the little stone path and everything. And she's been baking bread and all sorts of other delicious little treats. And so since I've been baking with my butterhead,
Yeah.
and she's been baking for her little farm stand
Yeah.
she's got going on, we're like taking turns in the kitchen, and my mom's like, well, why don't you just bake together and sell it all together? So
Yeah.
that might be coming up with the baked goods because I can't keep eating them.
Yeah.
That might not be good for me. The butter's good. The sugar's probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. So next steps, your hope is to continue to just spread awareness, education.
Yes.
What is your favorite part about that? You've recently done some radio segments.
Yeah. So actually, from the age of 16, I've been going on KNSI's show, The Ox, Hot Talk with the Ox. And he has a little segment called Ox and Friends every Friday afternoon. So this is a little bit of a change of scenery, but not too far off.
It's right across the street. I was just on the Ox a couple weeks ago, too.
Yeah. So him and I are actually great friends. He's
Yep.
one of my very best friends. So it's really awesome to be able to go on his show whenever he lets me. I did have to take quite a break for being a finalist. I couldn't talk politics, and that's a hard one to keep my tongue held on.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
Yeah.
So now I'm back in swing, back in business, and I can continue to go on his show. And he asked me a lot of questions about young people's perspective, women's perspective, farmers' perspective, because I think that's very unique to bring into his show. I think he's super excited that I can bring in that different perspective to things.
Yeah. When I was on there a couple weeks ago, I was with his sub, Chris, often hosts. Chris and I are co-chairs on something. And so we went on and we were actually talking about the pushback that I've had from the county with my business and my farm. And I'm in Stearns County, not Benton County. Ultimately, we were talking about the basis of agritourism laws and what constitutes as farming and zoning regulations and a lot of that, because unfortunately, and I haven't talked about it a lot on this podcast, I probably will, more to come, but I had some neighbors who just said that what I'm doing is not farming and that it shouldn't be allowed, and if you want to have a business, do it in town, and they don't want people coming to my farm, and just that's not considered farming. And it definitely, you know, it's starting to spark bigger conversations within the state of Minnesota, and, you know, looking at what is happening nationwide. Recently in Oregon, there was a bill that was proposed. It was not passed, but they were trying to limit like farm to table events and experiences and the number of days a farm stand can be open. And they were trying to say that you could only sell products that you make, for example, or that you grow specifically. It was very complicated, and really don't want that to come to Minnesota, because people need the ability to stay progressive and to pivot and to determine. I mean, right now it's, you know, what are you seeing in the dairy industry right now? I mean, milk prices, you know, corn's cheap, so you can feed those cows, but
yeah, the corn's a little cheaper now. It was very high for a long time. Milk prices, even if they're going up, they are having a very hard time keeping up with the price of corn and everything. Like my dad, for example, we only farm 150 acres, which is not enough to feed our cows. So we do end up having to buy more silage and way more other feed as well. So it is very hard to keep up with all of that. And it's really sad, just the government coming into, because even besides like the whole feed issue, there's just so much excess regulation. Like we put in a pasture, and it wasn't declared wetlands before we put that pasture in, but then they wanted to claim it as wetlands, and then it's like, you have to do this, but you need a permit to do it, and you can't get the permit unless you do this. So it's like we're backed in a corner. We can't do anything without the permit. We can't get the permit without doing anything. So much paperwork, so much stress. As soon as we disprove one thing, it's another thing that they magically find and come up with. It's just been a constant battle. That's a huge thing that our farm's been dealing with since 2022. It's just a total nightmare for my parents. My mom's constantly doing paperwork for it. There's too much overregulation on so many things. It has to be like a consumer choice as well, because consumers are going to want to choose the option that is being more sustainable. They're going to want to choose the option that is healthier for them and more natural. They're going to choose those things if we're just open about it. But to just totally force it on everyone is not the route to go about that, because
each farmer's business is unique, their setup is unique, the resources that they have available to do are unique. And it was probably a year and a half ago, I was on my friend Lexi Wright. She has a podcast called Farming on Purpose, and we were talking about the term sustainability. And ultimately, if it's not sustainable for the family that's doing the work, it's not sustainable. And so how do we find ways that are, find that balance, and it's not an overnight 80-20, or, how do you, what is best for, just trying to find that way to, to continue to be able to operate and keep your cattle in the best quality as possible while, it's way more complicated than what people think.
Yes. And like you said, it does have to be for the family to work too, because each farm has a certain amount of land, and they have certain type of land to deal with. Our farm is at the bottom of the hill, It's very swampy. It is very wet. In dry years, it's great because our corn grows really tall. In wet years, it's like we're living in a lake sometimes. So, of course, it's going to be more of a wet area. I think it just depends a lot on everything with the farm, too. My dad's a lot younger than the typical farmer because he started his farm when he was my age, and so he's only in his 40s. And I mean, he has a lot more ambition to fix these things, but when you have these really old farmers, which is a huge thing, a lot of the farmers are aging out and they're getting older, and the grandkids aren't wanting to take over that farm because they know the work and they know the pay that other people might not realize. It is that much work. It's not that much pay for the work. So a lot of people aren't taking over their parents' farms, their grandparents' farms, and the older generation doesn't have that same ambition. They're just going to go and sell their cows because I'm not dealing with fixing that issue, and they're going to sell their cows because they can't afford to fix it. They don't have the ambition to fix it. So it is sad.
I don't even know if it's the ambition, it's the time. Like the ambition is, I mean, I'm sure it's not a lack of desire. It's a lack of just resource and priorities. And does this make sense? And, my late husband and I, we bought the farm from his dad, and he had retired. They used to milk until I think 2007 or 2009 or 2010, something like that. And then they sold the dairy cattle, and then he still would buy weaned steers, and then he would feed them out. Do I wish there was a little bit more maintenance done on a lot of the buildings? And because it got to the point now where it's now that I'm there, and I mean, some of the buildings are just beyond repair. And but that not everything is built to last and meant to last forever. It's like, tore down this building or this building. Well, it's 90 years old, and it had wooden walls, and it wasn't painted for 20 years. And but that's not necessarily a reflection on ambition. That's not a reflection on. It's just that's the reality of you can only do so much with your time to maintain and to think about like, what am I leaving for the next generation? But it also, resources are not infinite, obviously.
Well, and even with giving something new to the new generation or leaving the old with the new generation for them to fix it. What's to say that the new generation even wants to be part of that too? You can build a whole new barn and everything, tear out everything and build everything perfectly, and then the new generation can say, nope, I don't want any part of this. So it's a huge thing of like, even my parents, like, they don't know, should we do this step or this step? Are any of you kids going to take over the farm? And I mean, I'm the oldest of 3, so if I'm 20, my brothers are still in high school, just graduated, and they don't know yet. I mean, I'm 20 and I don't know yet what I'm going to do with my life.
Well, and let's face it, if your dad's in his 40s, he's probably not ready to retire. And that was the case with my late husband. People are like, oh, were you going to take over the farm? And so he went off and went to college, and it was like, well, I'd like to be part of it, but there's not enough for both of us. I can't speak. I mean, I was not around at that time, so I can't speak on what it was, but it's so much more complicated than what people think. And let's face it, it's not like your parents are just going to give you the farm. Like they're going to sell it to you. And so at what point, who's paying for those improvements and who, and so those are all conversations that are really just, you're 20. You're doing so great. You're doing so great. All right. So this is kind of the rapid fire round questions that I ask everyone. What is your favorite farm task?
Oh, definitely feeding calves with my little brothers. I get to play with them and the calves.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Least favorite?
Ooh, feeding calves in the winter. It's cold.
Go-to app, resource, or tool?
I love TikTok, honestly. It's so much easier to watch a video.
Perfect. How about a book or podcast that's helped you grow?
Oh, honestly, I'm going to go with the Ox because he has the podcast option as well. And just knowing him as a person and listening to that, it's helped me grow so much as a person.
Perfect. And where can listeners find you, follow along, learn more?
Yeah, so it's Heidi Montag, no space, and then an underscore at the end, all lowercase. HeidiMontag, and then that underscore. And that's on TikTok, Instagram. I think all my social medias are at that, but I'm mostly on TikTok.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
and joining us for another episode of Rooted Agritourism.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Rooted Agritourism. If you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star review and share it with someone who would find it helpful or inspiring. Your support helps us reach more rural entrepreneurs, dreamers, and doers just like you. You can explore all of our resources at sunnymarymeadowcoaching.com, where you'll find each episode in blog form along with free resources to help grow your business. You'll also find info on upcoming on-farm and virtual workshops, classes, and courses. Be sure to check out our monthly membership, Foundations of Peddling Perishable Products, where you'll get access to a full library of our original course content, plus ongoing support through monthly virtual meetups with others in the industry. Just click the link in the show notes or our bio to learn more. We'd love to have you join us. Until next time, keep growing with purpose and stay rooted.